Hey everyone, I'm your host Jared Samuels, and welcome to the 23rd episode of What's Behind the Game, where you'll get an exclusive look at how all your favorite athletes eat, train, and anything else you'd like to know. Today on the show, we have Tate Schroeder, a highly accomplished tennis player for Clemson University. So let's welcome Tate.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to the show. So my first question is, I read on the Clemson website that growing up you played all different kinds of sports, and that you're really good at baseball, but you ultimately decided on tennis. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I pretty much tried every other sport that exists. My parents wanted me to always be athletic, like as a kid. And I started playing baseball, and I was really good at just like hitting the ball and having good hand-eye coordination. And so my stepdad was like, why don't you start tennis, because we haven't tried that yet. So I started tennis, and I kept up with track along the way because I ran track a lot as a kid. But I kind of, from there, I never really looked back at any other sport besides tennis. So
What attracted you most to tennis?
I I can't really describe it, but I don't know, I just kind of knew that it was the sport for me. I really liked the feeling of, because tennis is so individual that you like really know when you work hard, and you really know when you give it your all, and you don't have anyone to kind of pick up your slack. And so if you're not working hard or you're not doing the things right, then it'll show. And I just kind of always liked that individuality about it, because as a kid, I loved being on the court for like hours on end, pretty much. So
There's the individual aspect versus baseball is kind of like it's a team sport wrapped in an individual. It's an individual sport wrapped in a team sport. It's
yeah,
weird like that, but yeah.
right.
So your family is your family very athletically oriented? Like, do they play a role in
Uh,
your desire? They said, what about trying tennis? But
yes. So both of my parents work in sports, or worked in sports. My dad has been the national anthem singer for the Avs for 22 years. And then my mom worked for the Broncos for 22 years, and my stepdad was a huge athlete growing up. Same with my stepmom. And so we always look to athletics to kind of get those really good core values in, because I think that sports can really teach you a lot. And so it wasn't really a question of whether or not I played sports, because they always wanted me to be involved in something and be healthy. So yeah, I was kind of just deciding which sport and how serious it was going to be.
mhm. And it seems to be like one of those sports where you get in and you just like specialize in it. Like that's your sport.
Right.
From when you picked it on, is that kind of what happened for
Yeah.
you?
So I started playing when I was like 10. So that's pretty late for a tennis player, because usually everyone starts when they're like 4 or 5. So from there on, I ran track throughout middle school and then a little bit in high school. But then I had to come to a point where, but track was more just like a cross training sport. Like it wasn't like I wasn't super all in about it as I was with tennis. But yeah, I had to spend, like in juniors, you're constantly having to play like 4 to 6 hours a day, because you need all that technique skill, you need all that technical work, and you need like all the fitness training and everything. So you kind of have to specialize right away, or else you're never going to catch up. So
hmm That was interesting because I read something about Roger Federer and that he
mhm.
didn't specialize. So I thought that was kind of weird that like,
Yeah,
he didn't, but that
yeah,
just seems to be the norm
right, yeah,
across the sport.
specializes.
So you moved to Florida and played at the IMG Academy, which I kind of know from like basketball and other sports like that.
Yeah.
What was the environment like being around like all those athletes that
It
seemed
was
to like
really
flock there?
cool. Yeah, it was. I've always wanted to go to Bolletary, because it started as the Bolletary Tennis Academy, in like the 1970s, I want to say. But I always wanted to go there. I would always go there for camps. And I finally got to a place where they offered my mom a job, and with that, I got a scholarship to go there as well. And so, but I would literally write letters to them growing up saying that I would like sweep the floors there if I could go there for free. Because I mean, it's expensive, but I wanted to go there so bad. But just the environment, it's like people describe it as Disneyland for athletes, because it's just like the nicest weight room and facilities and just pro athletes everywhere, and everyone is good. and it's really cool. It's a really competitive atmosphere, and it really changed me. You have to have a level of grit to really go there and compete, but it's really cool because you go from like your town where you're maybe like a bigger player, and then you go to IMG and you're just normal. So
Mm-hmm.
you just have to keep
But
working and working and working to get to that
is
level.
it segmented by sport? Like, so you're just like with your tennis people all the time,
Yeah.
or
So
like is you?
basically, it's pretty much like a normal high school now, except it's just with elite athletes. So everyone has their sport that they go to, but like everyone goes to school together, like in a normal high school, or a normal middle school, because it goes K through 12. But everyone goes to school together, and then you just go to sports practice. So it's kind of like a college atmosphere, honestly. But it's really cool. I loved it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what was your training like or at IMG? Like, did they? So you said it's more like a typical high school now.
Mhm.
Did the day kind of revolve around the sport, or was it?
So my schedule in high school, I would go to school, I think, from 8 to noon or 12:30, and then lunch from 12:30 to 1:30, and then after that it would be 1:30 to maybe 5:30 or 6:30. We would have practice in fitness. And so it was like that Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, you would just like play on your own. You'd have lessons, or you would just like match play with other people. So I did that for my junior and then half of my senior year of high school. And then my second half of senior year, I had enough credits to where I could have graduated early from high school, but I stayed there and I took 2 online classes so that I could train more. Um, so I only had school on like physical school on I think it was Mondays and Wednesdays. And then I would just train all day Tuesday and Thursday.
Hmm.
Yeah, they
Eh,
really make the schedule really suitable to the athlete, but
Oh,
they
okay.
really want that school aspect. Yeah, so a lot of football players who go there, they go there so that they can graduate in January so that they can go to school, because a lot of schools like back home you can't do that, but IMG will do that for you. So
Hmm. So there's just a lot more accommodating.
yeah, absolutely.
Schools.
Yeah, they're so understanding with traveling, and that was something that I really missed because my old high school was not understanding when I would travel. As much as I loved it, it was just so hard to keep like excellent grades while teachers wouldn't give you your homework from when you missed it. So
Oh, right, yeah. Ugh. So you had a lot of high school success. You were named a National High School Tennis All-American. What do you contribute a lot of that success to?
um, I well, for the National High School All-American, that I was named it that year that I won state, and for me that was a really big point in my tennis career that really changed me. That match in particular, because I don't know if you read this, but there was a shooting at my high school that year.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yes, and so when I went to state, I had it in my mind that I was just going to win it for my high school, because that was really all that I could do to maybe help, or maybe just give a little bit of hope or do whatever I could. So I really went into that tournament with that mindset. And then I beat another really highly ranked girl from Colorado who's one of my really good friends who plays at USC. Um, and but that match in particular was the biggest turning point, because that really showed me what I was capable of, and going through as much adversity in that year and then still being able to use that for something good. And so after that match, I was named a National High School All-American. So yeah, that's where that came from. But I think in junior tournaments, I think just my stepdad was my coach, and he really made me work hard. I really focused with him, and I was really disciplined with him, and he really helped me with a lot of my success. And my parents are just incredible. They sacrificed everything for me so that I could follow my dreams with this sport. So I give everything, all the credit to them, because without them, I would not be here.
Hmm. So that match in particular, you're just like playing for a bigger purpose, and you think that just like raised your game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has kind of carried me through my tennis career. Just really trying to focus on a bigger purpose than myself, with playing for God and playing for Claire, who was the girl who died in the shooting.
Mm.
Because life is so much bigger than our sport, and we don't really get to, when you're in the thick of competition, you don't really understand that. But when something that horrific happens, you really understand that life goes by in the blink, like in a blink of an eye. So it's just really important to keep your values and keep your eyes set on something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty amazing. So moving into like college, your freshman year, you played in Missouri. What was the transition like from, well, I mean, you're in a little different experience because IMG. So what's that transition like to college?
I mean, IMG really helped with the transition, but it's still nothing like, I mean, when you go to college, you're on your own for the first time. Because I was with my mom and my stepdad still when I went to IMG, but I was on my own for the first time, and my family and I were super close. So that was really hard. But yeah, it's very interesting because it's unlike anything that you'll ever experience. I mean, just the pressure and the day-to-day grind is incredible, but it's also one of the most fulfilling experiences because you really get to see what your limits are and see yourself overcome like obstacles that you would never expect to overcome. And just having an amazing support system like a team really hold you up and become your family is truly one of the best experiences that you could ever have.
Mm-hmm. So your teammates just kind of take you in and
Totally. Yeah.
help you with that transition.
Yeah. I loved my teammates from freshman year. They're my sisters. They're my family.
Mm-hmm. So you made the decision to transfer to Clemson.
Mhm.
What advice, well, why did you do that? If you can talk about that, I don't know. And then what advice would you give to a college athlete going through something like that themselves?
Yeah. So as much as I love Mizzou, it just wasn't the right fit for me. Personally, I I love my friends and I loved everything about Mizzou, but it just wasn't the right fit. And so I decided that it was in my best interest to go somewhere else. And I didn't transfer. I didn't get my release until like I think it was July 22nd. So obviously a very late transfer.
Yeah.
Probably not the brightest decision making on my part. So I would definitely advise athletes to not transfer at the last minute, because there still will be spots open, but it'll definitely be a lot more stressful than if you were to decide before then. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I would just advise athletes to really be careful, and really pay attention to everything that the coaches say on the visits, and also how the team is, and just everything in general, and just make sure that you can really see yourself playing and fighting for the school that you are looking at, and also just everything else. I mean, Clemson is an incredible school. The alumni base is amazing. Just all the students who go there absolutely love Clemson. So that's a really big plus. But yeah, I would just say being very thorough and asking a lot of questions. No question is too stupid to ask. But yeah.
Yeah. Texas football just had a situation where a kid committed to USC, then transferred to Texas, then transferred back, all before playing it down. So it's like really moved around.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm kind of a tennis novice, but you play both singles and doubles. Can you talk about the difference between like practicing and playing both of those, like
Yeah.
having a teammate versus not having a teammate, and the differences?
Yeah. So, well, even from the junior tournaments, doubles is completely different in college. And I didn't really play doubles in juniors because I wanted to focus on singles. Um, and that probably wasn't the smartest thing for me to do as far as development for college. But a lot of juniors don't play doubles because it's just like it's a lot of tennis in a weekend at a tournament, and you're doing that back to back to back. But as far as singles goes, um, singles is obviously individual, but you are given, I don't know, for me, I really like singles. Doubles I struggle with just because I try to be too aggressive with it sometimes because I'm a big hitter. That's always how I've been. And I didn't have that experience kind of growing up in juniors with doubles. But so I was a little slow and my volleys weren't as strong as they needed to be. But I've learned so much about just strategy. Like doubles is completely all strategy. You're just picking patterns the whole time. And you're giving your partner signals on where you want to go. And then you have to go to a certain place in order for you to execute properly. So doubles is a lot of strategy and it's a lot of, what's it called? I was gonna say like it's like a lot of plays from a playbook, basically. But singles, you're able to be a little more creative with it, which I really like because I'm not a very playbook person. But yeah, that's the biggest difference. It's a lot of movement in doubles, a lot of short movement, a lot of aggression. But yeah.
In college doubles, do you always have the same partner?
You try to stay with the same partner because it's really hard to adjust your game style constantly with different partners. But sometimes you're forced into situations where you have to adjust because that's what's best for the team. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What does a typical practice session look like for you? Like if you go through maybe just a typical day.
Okay.
Getting in.
Yeah. So a typical day. So we've had a few different schedules at Clemson just because we were in last year we were in the process of getting a new facility and now we finally have it. But for 3 semesters, we had kind of crazy all over the place schedules. But for this semester during season, we had practice from 7 to 9:30 or 10:30, I think, and then weights after. And so during a practice, we warm up on the bikes for 10 minutes, and then we go out to the court, do our dynamic warm up our shoulders and everything, and then we warm up short court. And we start kind of just with rallying and getting into our rhythm. And then from there, we'll do some patterns. We do a lot of drilling. And then towards the end of practice, we'll do some point play and really focus on our matches and everything.
So do you like isolate certain skills? Like let's say I'm going to practice my serve for an hour or something like that?
Yeah. We will work on that's kind of what you do in juniors is like one day it'll be, oh, okay, all 4 hands. But that's what you kind of do in individuals in college. And during season, it's hard to get in individuals just because our schedules are all crazy. But in the fall, during our off season, basically, we're doing individuals and you'll go into the coach and be like, hey, I want to work on this today. And so then they'll help you work on that. But during season, it's a little bit crazier because we're constantly trying to figure out what the whole team needs. But I would say like we focus on more of a tactic during practice during season. Like if we need to work on coming in and finishing the point like that, then we'll be forced into situations where we have to come into the net instead of just like playing how we would normally play because we're working on one specific thing. So that's kind of what we do. Yeah.
I'm curious, I'm sure you idolize different tennis players growing up. Do you ever like watch them and like, okay, I'm going to steal this?
Yeah. Sometimes I watch them. I watch them definitely a lot more in juniors. I don't know why I haven't really watched them since then. I think kind of just with the grind of college tennis, you just kind of want to chill after a long day playing and everything.
You don't need more tennis.
Yeah. I probably should watch more pro tennis because there's obviously so much to learn from them. And that's something that I'm working on. But we do watch our film after every match. They give it to us on iPad so we can watch ourselves and analyze ourselves. So that's how we learn during season or during tournaments in the fall. But I always admired Nadal for just his grit. That's kind of what I try to be on the court. I try to be really gritty and really I give all my effort. I try to give all my effort every time I walk onto the court. And even though I'm an aggressive player, I like to move around. I'm athletic, and I like to use that to my advantage. So I've always admired him.
Mm-hmm. So tennis is like a very mental sport. I mean, I kind of equate it to golf in my head a little bit, just because it's you alone. Except you have you have opponents in golf, but yeah, they're right across from you in tennis, I guess. So, how do you approach the mental side of the game?
Oh, that's a tough one. But I don't know. I'm still learning. Everyone still is constantly learning with their mental side, because some matches you're just so out of it and you don't know, like, your tennis is just not working, and so you get really frustrated. But for me, what really has worked for me is just kind of going out onto the court and thinking of it like my job. And that is my job to bring a win to the university. Like that's what I'm there for. I'm a student athlete, but like that's what I'm there for, is to do the best I can for Clemson. And so one thing that has really stuck with me that my mom said to me during junior tennis was, don't come off the court until you have the 3 balls in your hand, because when you go, usually the winner takes the balls off the court and then reports the score. So she's like, don't come off that court until you have the balls in your hand. So yeah, that's just kind of been like my fighting mentality. Like I will fight till the very end, and I will try not to give you anything, even though some days I'm making a lot of errors. I will still keep fighting, and I will still keep trying to find ways to win. So
do you think a lot of the mental game is like with yourself versus like a chess match with your opponent?
Yes. So, well, yeah. So a lot of it is with yourself, and it's a lot of internal things. Sometimes your opponent just outplays you, because that's how tennis is. Some days, like, some people will be having the best match of their life, and there's like nothing you can do about that. And then some days there's external factors, whether the weather is bad or the person is cheating or something like that. And so you have to really focus in on, or crowds even in tennis sometimes get kind of rowdy and annoying, and they like to heckle sometimes. But yeah, so you just have to kind of limit the external factors in your mind, because that can be really frustrating. And I'm not the best about that sometimes, because I'm a very fiery player. Like that's how I've always been. But so I need to work on that. But yeah, just like focusing on what you need to do to win, rather than what like other people are trying to get you to do, basically.
Mm-hmm. So you were actually awarded a SEC Sportsmanship Award.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a sportsmanship award. I thought that was cool. Can you talk a little bit about that, and like maybe sportsmanship and its importance in youth sports?
Yeah,
College sports.
Sportsmanship is incredibly important. Like I'm gonna be fiery, and I'm not gonna try to give you an inch, but I'm always gonna do it with integrity. And I've never believed in cheating or changing the score. That will be something I will never do. And so what happened is I was playing a match against the University of Tennessee, and there was a ball, and it was out, but I didn't call it. And it would have made me go up 3-1 in the third set. And it was a very important match, and it was really important for me to win my match. But I didn't call it, and it was on a deuce point. And so there was like a whole big argument and everything, because the ref changed the score to 3-1 instead of 2-all, which it should have been, because I didn't call the ball. And so they asked me, and I was like, I didn't call it, so it's your point and it's your game. So then I'm not sure who nominated me. I think it may have been the Tennessee coach, Allison Ojeda, and I think it may have been one of my coaches. But yeah, so they nominated me for that. I didn't really think I deserved it, because that's just something that like you're supposed to do. I mean,
you've always done.
That's what you're expected to do. You're expected be a classy competitor. You're expected to be honest and fair with your opponent, because you're all trying to do the same thing. You're trying to win the match. Why not be nice about it, and why not have good integrity with it? So I was not expecting it at all. And I'm sure that there were way more deserving people, but yeah, so that's basically what happened. And that was pretty cool. But yeah.
That's cool. That's cool for sure. So you played in a lot of big matches, including in like the NCAA championships. So what is your approach the same heading into a big match, or is it, do you have to amp it up? There's more nerves?
I mean, there's definitely more nerves sometimes playing a bigger match. But I don't know, specifically the match against Ohio State, which was in the championship. I had been having not the best season my sophomore year. It just wasn't clicking with me. I had some good wins and some good matches, but overall it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. But towards the end of season, I lost a couple matches that I really shouldn't have lost. And I was very disappointed in myself. And then the Ohio State match, I just wanted to have fun. And because I was like, it's awesome that we got into NCAAs. No one was expecting us to get into NCAAs because we didn't have a facility and we were basically the underdogs. We had to win like 8 matches in a row for us to make it to NCAAs, and we did. So we were definitely the underdogs, and we were not expected to beat Ohio State, but everyone just came out there and really had such focus and such like just pride. And it was a really cool thing because I didn't get to go to the NCAA tournament at Mizzou. And so everyone talks about how cool NCAAs is, but you don't really understand it until you actually are there. Because it's the big dance. I mean, it's everything that you've worked for all year. But yeah, that will be my favorite memory. That has been my favorite memory of playing at Clemson, is beating Ohio State, just because we were the complete underdogs of the situation. So
So it sounded like, given the position of being an underdog and just you wanted to come in there and have fun, like the pressure was sort of off in that way.
Yeah, I was just going to play the way that I wanted to play, and I didn't want to be worried about losing anymore, and I didn't want to put myself through that fear, and I just wanted to play for my team and not myself. So
That's awesome. So there's a final question we ask everybody, and it's, what are your top 3 recommendations for young athletes?
Ooh, I would say know your goals. Definitely make a list with goals. Whether it's I think definitely long-term goals, and then also short-term goals, like just little things throughout the week of things that you want to accomplish, whether you want to improve a shot or whatever you want to improve. And then also my second one would be just keep your focus. Always know that there's something bigger at stake. So even though you're going to have to make sacrifices, the feeling that you'll get when you get to those goals is going to far surpass anything that you'll have to sacrifice. And then third, just enjoy it and have fun with it. Don't do something that you're not going to enjoy, because life's too short for that. And don't get so worked up over losing or not doing something right in practice, because there's always tomorrow, and then there's always the next practice that you have. But just enjoy spending time with your friends and your family and all your friends throughout your junior experience, because you're never going to get that back. So you might as well make it the best that you can.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me.